Hey guys, this is Eric from Figure Unboxing, and in this video we're going to take a look at the super action statues Toyohisa Shimazu from Drifters. I've been waiting for this guy for quite a while, but my first impression is that he is a little bit too big. Compared to what I'm collecting, he is a little bit out of scale. But besides that, he looks really good. So for those of you who don't really care about scale, this might be a really good figure, but we're about to find out. Here's the left of the box, here is the right of the box, and here is the back of the box. And let's not waste any more time and bust this thing open and see what we got. Alright, so here we have the figure still in the inner packaging, and it does look like it came with a fair amount of stuff, and let's check out the figure itself. Alright, so here we have the figure itself, and aside from being a little bit too big for my taste, the figure is actually really well made. I'm a little bit impressed. The sculpt is really good, and I love the darker palette they chose. The color is really nice. Despite looking a little bit dark, it's got a lot of color. It's actually a really colorful figure, and I love all the shading, all these airbrushing. If you look close at the hair, I'm not sure if you guys can see well on the camera, it's got a lot of color in there. And let's just take a closer look at the body as well. Everything looks really nice, and the paintwork looks really clean. And for the most part, you do have some paint splashing here and there, but it's not too bad. Overall, the quality is really nice, but he is a little bit expensive though. But yeah, let's jump straight into the articulation. Alright, so here we have the figure itself, and aside from being a little bit too big for my taste, the figure is actually really well made. I'm actually really impressed by it, and the sculpt is very nice. I love the darker palette they chose. I think it fits the character very well. I'm not sure if you guys can see all this airbrushing on all this shading. Everything looks really good. I don't have any paint issues as far as I can tell. Maybe some paint splashing here and there, but it's not a big deal. And everything looks really good. The hair is really colorful. Despite looking a little bit dark, he is actually a very colorful figure. It's really well done. And yeah, let's jump straight into the articulation. Alright, so for the articulation, I actually play around with it a little bit, and it feels a lot better than your normal super action statues. The overall figure feels a little bit more durable, so they definitely improve on the joints. So the joints is not as loose. These used to be really loose based on what I remember from other super action statues, and they're using the same joints, I believe, but it just feels a lot more durable. But yeah, the only issue I have is the torso. It has no torso movement at all. I don't really understand why they couldn't make him have some movement over here, because we have SH Figures, we have Figma, we have Realtek, we have Masco 112, right? This is not acceptable in the market right now. There's no movement, and you have some hip movement over here, and the hip is actually pretty loose. I really don't like that. But anyways, let's quickly go over it from the neck down. He can look up about this much, look down about this much. He can turn his head, no problem. And his shoulder is actually really nice this time around. It's better than some of the other super action statues I have experienced. It has a really long ball joint, so you do have a lot of movement. You can raise his arm like that, and yeah, it feels very nice. And again, it's really solid. I really like that. And he can curl about this much. You do have a swivel over here, and you have the ball wrist. So yeah, the articulation over there is really nice. And the lower body, despite all this armor, you can actually move up really high. That's really good. You do have a little ball joint in here. Let me see if I can pull that out. Yeah, you can pull that out, so it looks like that. So yeah, let me just put that over there. So it do have a lot of movement over here. You can swivel. So yeah, this is actually really nice, and you can bend about this much. You do have a little bit of side-to-side pivot with the ball joint, and you have the toe hinge. Yeah, I think that's it for the articulation. Overall, I'm pretty impressed. It's just really disappointing that it doesn't have torso movement. But anyways, let's jump straight into the accessories. Alright, so first off, we have the default face, and I think the expression fits the character very well. I really like the head sculpt. This is probably one of the better ones I have seen for a very long time. It looks very good. I like it. Alright, so next up we have this confident smiling head sculpt, which captures the character very well. And for those of you who don't know anything about the character, he's one of those that really enjoys fighting, and he's always smiling on a battleground, and it looks very good. But I feel like they could have included another head where he looks a little bit more crazy. This one just doesn't look crazy enough for me. But there's nothing we can do about it. And one thing worth mentioning is that they changed the joints over here. They used to have those on Masco 112 or Marvel Legends really big ball joint for all the super action statues. So I'm not sure if they're gonna do this for all the future figures, but I think it's a really big improvement, which is why I really don't understand why we don't have ab crunch or torso movement, which really sucks. All right, so for the hands department, we have one pointing finger for the right hand, and I don't remember him pointing at someone, but do let me know in the comments if it did. But I feel like this is kind of like a joke on the JoJo Bizarre figures. But anyways, it looks really good. All right, so next up he came with a pair of style opposing hand, and these are really nicely sculpted. You can see all these bandages and the detail on the finger. I really like this. All right, so next up he came with one left trigger holding hands, and we do have the gun over here. It's really nicely painted and sculpted. I like the wooden look on it. It looks very good. And let's try to assemble. Here I have him assemble with a gun. He doesn't hold it all too well. You kind of have to work with the finger over here, but it's not a big deal. Alright, before we get into the sword, I want to make a really quick apology. I said he doesn't have any ab crunch, but it turns out that I just didn't crack it hard enough, and my joints was a little bit too tight. But now I realize he has ab crunch, so go ahead and hit that dislike button. And I only realized that after I look at the instruction paper. He does have like ball joints from here and here, so yeah, that was my bad. And he can bend down about this much, he can bend backwards about this much, so it's not too bad. Not the best range, but it's there. But anyways, let's look at the swords. Alright, so next up, of course, it came with a pair of hands for him to hold the katanas, and we do have the katanas in the sheath over here, and of course you can remove it like so. Unfortunately, we can't put the sword in there, and we have to put these on his hip. But I feel like the sword is a little bit too short though. Let me know in the comments, but I feel like this is kind of their take on the character. That's why they make the sword a little bit shorter, because based on what I remember, the sword should be at least like this long or something. I don't know, but let's try to put this on. Alright, so here I have him assembled with the sheath, and it looks really good. Let me just, show you guys the close-up. It is a little bit tricky to put this on because they share the same hole, but it is pretty cool. I really like it. Even though it still looks really small, but I feel like it works. Alright, so here I have him assembled with the sword, and I really feel like the sword is way too short, especially when he's this tall, but, there's nothing we can do about it. We just gotta learn to appreciate, their take on the character. Like, this is a Super Action Statue's take on what the character actually looks like. But anyways, let's jump straight into the size comparison. Alright, so for the size comparison, let us start with the SH Figuarts Naruto figures, and as you guys can see, he's completely not in scale with SH Figuarts, which is really disappointing for me, but there's nothing I can do about it. Alright, so next up we have SH Figuarts Kylo Ren, Hawkeye, Joker, and Tony Stark. Alright, so next up we have Mezco 112 Daredevil and Punisher. And then we have some random Kamen Riders I have around here. Alright, so lastly, we have some recent Figma figures, and let's jump straight into the final thoughts. Alright, so overall, I think the figure is really decent, but I don't think the figure is for me personally. I know I kept bitching about him being too big, and that's obviously not an issue for a lot of people, but as an SH Figuarts and Figma collector, I just can't accept something this big. I know they never promised this is a 112, I guess I just had that expectation, right? But the short katana really turns me off. I think I would have liked the figure a lot better if the katana were like a little bit longer. But I could understand like they probably had some engineering problems. They have to make it this small or whatever. Or this is like their own take on the character. So I can't really blame them. I just gotta learn to appreciate what the company is doing for the character. And I guess we just didn't have enough character for Super Action statues yet. As they build up their pool, I think people are gonna get used to the size. It's just kind of like the same reason why I don't collect the One Piece line for the the variable action heroes or something. Yeah, the reason why I don't collect them is because they're way too big for my other collection. But anyways, I think that's it from me, and do let me know in the comments what you think. Regardless of what I said, I think it's still a really good figure. So if you're a really big fan of Drifters, it's got beautiful paintwork, beautiful sculpt. And again, it's got a decent amount of accessories, and the articulation somewhat works. It's not as good as like SH Figuarts and Figma, but the articulation is there. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. And this is Eric. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.